Lopez versus Ortega. Now, DraftKings has this. Are you ready? DraftKings has this. Who do you think the favorite is? Quick pause. Who do you think? Who do you think? Lopez. They gave the nod to Lopez, and it's close, minus 140, plus 124. How do you feel about that? Like, I watch Lopez, and he sure is fun. Like, he's had back to back to back. He put a string. Almost like he got lucky, but then he did it again. In terms of excitement, I don't mean in terms of skill. I understand he could have won those fights, but 3 in a row, and they were just like but really interesting matches. He used his hands, finished these opponents, like, whoa, got on people's radar, had an interesting haircut when he did it. Like, it was one of these things where he kind of quietly crept up and likely would not be in a position where we'd be talking about him today had this card not fallen apart, but that doesn't change his skills. Do you think that's enough to beat a perennial number 1 contender, a former title challenger who all he had to do was say Ilia Toporia's name, and he would have a title fight right now from down a division? I mean, do you understand that? That's how good Ortega is. Like, we don't do different medals here. We just got one belt and it's gold. There is no silver medal and there is no bronze medal. But let's say that there was. This is a former silver medalist who right now, had he said the words Ilia Topuria, would be signed up to be in that gold medal match again. That's how good he is from down a weight class. Not a former guy, not a former stud, not once upon a time, and now he's moved up. Right here, right now, had he said the words Ilia Topuria into a microphone, he would be in a gold medal match down a weight class. What does that mean when he moves up? And I bring that to you, and you want to know why? Because 45 is harder than 55. If you dispute anything that I just said, if you dispute that he would be fighting for the title, well, we can't go any further. If you understand that he would be right now in the finals, in the Super Bowl, in the gold medal match, right by any other sports terms, and you understand that 45 is a harder weight class than 55, then you see an opportunity at DraftKings. They got this one wrong. They got this one way wrong. Unless you don't agree with something that I just said. Now, the reason I bring it to you and the reason I'm talking about this weight class is that perception will never go away, no matter how many times this gets shoved up your ass and down your throat. Like, this will not be accepted by the public. There is a weight advantage. The bigger guy. It's the same thing with a reach advantage. I have no idea how long my arms are. I don't know what your arms are. I just know that Mike Tyson never had a longer arm than one single opponent. And I also know that Mike Tyson never weighed more than one single opponent. But the myth lives on. And I'm not trying to pick on 45 and 55. Like, those are two really great weight classes. I just think that's an interesting concept that no matter how many times this gets proven and disproven, like, we've seen people go for champ status. They were champion and they came down a weight class. And we see that backfire versus we see a guy at a weight class who moves up another weight class, but then does get champ status. And it's largely a North American idea. Like, in my wrestling day, and I have to bring that in, I don't think there's any sports like this, and even if that's a broad stroke statement, there's no professions like this. There's nothing in the world where for you to earn a living, you have to get on a scale first. Like, if anybody tried that in any walk of life, they would be sued instantly, and they would lose the lawsuit. It's a very unique field. And the same thing goes for sport. Like, you're not going to see baseball or hockey or soccer or badminton or any sport. You have to get on a scale to even be allowed. It's not like, oh, well, it doesn't matter what you weigh. We just want to know what you weigh, and then we're going to put you in anyway. No, not in this sport. We're going to put you on a scale, and if you don't weigh a certain amount, you're not going in. You're not going into the game the next day. It's very unique. So when I share with you weight ideas and philosophies, they're rare. And I would expect that you would listen. And I will share with you when I went overseas, man, I went to wrestle in other countries. It was really just the Americans that are in the sauna or wearing the sweatsuits and are running and spitting and trying to sweat it out and starving the night before, even the week before. It was really just the Americans. Like, the Europeans don't do that. They might lose a kilo or two. They wake up, whatever they weigh, and they gotta go do one workout. They can do it in a short and a t-shirt and go get on the scale, and they're in a relatively good mood anyway, versus the American who can't even speak. Can't even speak. He's so dehydrated, and they got to help him to and from the scale. Like, it's largely a North American idea that if I'm a good 185 pounder, I'm going to be a really good 170 pounder, which means I'll go 155. And there's not a lot of times that you can show that that's accurate. You could do it in reverse. You could take a 205 pounder like Daniel Cormier, put him at heavyweight, he'll walk through it, win the gold medal, and beat all your biggest stars on his way to doing it. Now, if he goes back to 205, he's not guaranteed to be champion. And there's lots of stories like that. And I share that because the one advantage that I see for Brian Ortega is that he's going at 155 pounds. The one advantage, the physiology of it, right? If you had your choice to be more powerful or faster than an opponent, all of you who've never been in a fight will take the power. You'd be taking the wrong one. You'd be much better to have speed. Now, you trade the speed for the conditioning. That's the single most important thing that you can have. Not the combos, not the experience, not anything, not the footwork, whatever that even means. Number one thing that you could have is conditioning. Second thing that you could have is speed. Power certainly does matter at some point. But I share that with you because just by the numbers, when you're moving up a weight, you're automatically faster than your opponent, at least in theory. And if you're a little bit smaller, the advantage that you have is that you can move around longer than he can, at least within theory, if everything else is equal. So when you have an automatic finals like Brian Ortega, either 1 or 2 at 145. 2 words, Ilia Topuria into a microphone. He would be fighting Ilia Topuria. So now he's either going to beat him or he's not. He's either 1 or he's 2 at 145 right now. And it's really a question of, am I right? Is 45 harder than 55? Is 55 better than 45? Can a guy, a good guy, a really good guy, a Lopez, beat an absolute top guy no lower than 2 at 45? Because if he can, it would dispel my entire theory about which weight class is more challenging. And there is such a built-in advantage, and there is such a built-in attitude. Aljamain Sterling's going through it right now. He didn't want to go to 145, and as soon as he does, goes and has this great fight against Kattar, but his life was also better. His training sessions were also better. Hanging out with him on a human level, he's got his better attitude, better energy, more calories in, better life. I'm just sharing with you. Brian Ortega's going through that right now. And likely for a big part of his career, he wanted to stay at 45. He had reservations about going to 55, but now that it's happening, he's seeing the benefits. And he's seeing, like so many others, that is a misconception to go smaller. Always better to go up. It's always better let the other guy be bigger. The hardest guy to wrestle is the guy from one weight class below you. It may not be true in all sports, but it's combat. It's true in this one. Brian Ortega at DraftKings right this second is an underdog to Lopez. DraftKings has this one wrong. And if you have Lopez, good for you, great fighter, not cheering against you. You've also got it wrong. And if you're favoring Lopez, you're favoring him not for a body of work or something that you've seen in the past. You're favoring him because he's bigger, and in your mind, that's better. Though history proves otherwise.